Good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to try out a new sourdough recipe. This is a lower hydration sourdough recipe, and it actually calls for a little bit of oil in it, which will make the texture a little softer, I guess. I don't know. We're going to try it out and see what happens. So, I've made my levain last night, and I just did it in the bowl that I'm going to use to make this loaf of bread. So I've got 150 grams of active, bubbly sourdough starter. You can see she's looking nice and bubbly. So I've got that in there. So because there's oil in this recipe, we are going to use warm water to kind of give it an extra kick. Oil can slow down your bulk fermentation process. So using the warm water will kind of kick that speed back up. So we need 250 grams of warm water. Let's measure out our water here and then we'll just pop it in the microwave for 30 seconds or so. 257, close enough. All right, when you're using warm water, you always want to test your temperature on it because you don't want it to be over 110 degrees or you might kill your yeast. This is right at 110 degrees, so it should be good. I'll give it a little stir just to kind of cool it down just a degree or so. Ideal temperature is like 108. All right, I'm going to add my warm water to my sourdough starter. Some of it went on the counter because now it's 249 grams. I'm going to mix that up real good. Okay, now we're going to add 25 grams of oil. Hopefully I have 25 grams here. This is all the avocado oil I've got. Now, the recipe that I'm going off of actually calls for olive oil. We don't usually use olive oil. We use avocado oil. Any oil will do. $25. Perfect. Give that a little mix. Now 500 grams of flour, whatever flour you choose. I'm using unbleached all-purpose flour. A little too much. 500. And 10 grams of salt. Again, you can use whatever salt you like. I use Himalayan pink sea salt. It's just what works for me. I like to mix my salt into my flour a little bit just so I don't have any clumps of salt in there. All right, now we're going to mix that up. Whew, it is dry. Let's switch from my dough hook to my spatula here. The rubber spatula really helps you get down, scrape off the sides of your bowls. Make sure you don't have any dry flour in the bottom of your bowl. This is a very low hydration loaf, so we're not going to really have a wet, shaggy dough. I mean, it's a dough ball from the start. My hands here. Just going to kind of knead that in a little bit just to make sure that everything is mixed in good. You know, most of the time, sourdough recipes, well, any recipe really calls for you just to mix it till you get a shaggy dough. You don't have to do that. You can go ahead and mix it really well and knead it in because you're starting to build your gluten network from the very start before you do any of your stretch and folds, before you rest. A little bit stuck to the bottom of my bowl. Get that off. There we go. All right, now I'm going to cover this up, let it sit for an hour, and then I'll start doing stretch and folds. I'll do 3 sets of stretch and folds every 30 minutes after that first hour rest. Just going to cover it up and let it sit here on my counter. When you're making sourdough, you want to make sure that you take note of your original mix time. So it is currently 10:35. I know that with the temperature of my house, and I'll probably put this in the oven with the light on to make it go a little faster. I'm not going to go over probably 5 or 6 hours on my bulk fermentation. So 10:35 right now. I'm going to, after all my stretch and folds are done, I'm going to check it again around 2:30 to see if it has pretty much doubled in size, and then I'll get ready to shape it, put it in the banneton, and put it in the fridge. Okay, it has been a little more than an hour because I was eating my lunch, and we are going to do a stretch and fold. Just going to dampen my hand so it doesn't stick. I don't think it will stick because it's so, I don't know, thick. Yeah. She's thick. So, like, stretch and folds are not easy. And stretching coils. Just folding it into itself several times to kind of stretch it out. All right. She gets to rest again for 30 more minutes. Okay, stretch and fold number 2. Excuse my hair and my face. I've been outside working in the chicken coop. I washed my hands. Try for coil folds here. It's easier to do coil folds when you have a bigger batch. This is just a single batch. So if you can't do a coil fold, you can just fold it over in half. And then fold it in half this way. And then fold it in half this way. It's looking good. Smooth. Starting to get some air bubbles in it. We are 2 hours in. All right. Back in she goes. 30 more minutes for our last coil fold. All right. Time for our last stretch and fold. And she's a little stretchier now. She's getting a little bigger. Almost coil fold it. Can hear a little bit of a difference. getting some air in her. Okay. Back in the bowl she goes. When she fills this bowl up, I'm going to take her out and shape her up and put her in the banneton, put her in the fridge, and then she will get cooked tomorrow at some point. In the oven. She's going in the oven. I got my oven light on. Let's see what the temperature is in there. So it's 70 degrees in my house right now, and it is 83 degrees inside the oven where the oven light is. So that's why it makes it rise faster, because higher temperature, quicker rise. So there you go. If you want to know how to make your sourdough rise faster, just pop it in the oven with the light on. But be careful. I see on the sourdough pages all the time. People forget about it in there. They turn the oven on to preheat to make dinner. They end up cooking their bread with the plastic covering on top and ruining the whole thing. So if you're going to put it in the oven, you got to remember it's in there. Pro tip. Okay, it has officially been 6 hours. My sourdough is at the top of my bowl. She's jiggly and puffy and beautiful. So I'm going to take it out and shape it and then put it in my already rice floured wood pulp banneton. And then put it in the fridge and let it sit overnight or for the next however long until I bake it. Coming out. Oh. Clean counter. If your bulk fermentation and your gluten network is good, you shouldn't worry about it sticking. It should do just fine. Just going to kind of spread it out a little bit here. Fold it over. Fold it over again into a burrito. And then I'm going to roll her up. Now, we're going to shape it into a round. Nice and tight. I'm going to let that sit here and rest for about 20 minutes or so, and then I'm going to come back and reshape if I need to, or just put it in the banneton. We'll see. Okay, our dough has rested, and now I'm going to just make sure we are nice and tight before putting it in the banneton. Beautiful. And it goes. Just gonna zip it up here on the bottom. Now, I have learned, because this dough is pretty warm, when I put it in my refrigerator, it is going to create moisture with just a plastic shower cap over the top. So what I'm going to do I'm going to give it a sprinkle of rice flour. Rub that in a little bit. And then the cover, this normally you would put in the bottom of the banneton, but since I don't have, or since this is a wood pulp banneton, I don't use these. So I put them over the top, inside out, just so that I don't get the seam lines on my bread. That's going to soak up any moisture that comes along, and then I cover that with my shower cap. That's going to keep anything yucky smells or anything like that out. And now this is going in the refrigerator until we're ready to bake it. Okay, it is the next day on my lunch break, and I am going to, I've got my oven preheated to 450 degrees. I'm going to open bake this loaf. My pizza stone is in there in the middle rack. It's preheated with the oven, and I've got a pan, just a loaf pan, that's about half full of water for some steam. I'm going to bake this for about 25 minutes with the steam, take the steam out, and then bake it for another 20-25 minutes depending on the color. Make sure I get a color that I like. And the temperature, internal temperature needs to be around 200 degrees. I usually shoot for like between 200 and 205. Parchment paper, loaf's going to go over on top of that. And just rub my flour in here. I don't want too much of it. Now I'm just going to do a very simple score on this loaf. Just a halfway ear here. The middle. At about a 45-degree angle. And down. Now I'm going to go back underneath it, pull up just a little bit from the top of that slice so that we get an ear. My blade is slipping. And we'll give her a little pretty wheat stock at the top. Now, if your oven is like mine and it vents at the top, I've got just an electric oven, and the top left-hand vent the top left-hand burner is the vent. If you have a vent on your oven, I like to cover it, and I know you're never supposed to put a towel on a burner. I'm here, I'm watching it close. Nothing's gonna happen. I put a towel on top of that burner to completely cover it to keep my steam in, and then I put something heavy on top of that towel. That keeps the steam inside the oven instead of letting it out. You know, some people have a fancy bread oven that will keep steam in. I don't. I got a regular old oven. So I'm going to put this in for 25 minutes with that steam, and then I'll take the steam out and do another 20 to 25 minutes. Right on top of the pizza stone is where this parchment paper is going. Okay, my loaf came out of the oven after 25 minutes with steam and then 10 minutes without. And the color was good, but it wasn't quite at 200. It was at like 198, 199. So I wrapped it in foil and stuck it back in the oven with the oven turned off, but it was still preheated to 450 degrees. So I'm going to see if it is at temperature now. I didn't want to put it back in there uncovered because I didn't want it to get too dark. So let's see what our temperature is now. Oh yeah, we're at 206 now, so we're good. Now I'm going to let this cool for 2 hours or so before I try to cut into it because it is hot. Crust is a little thick. It might be from my oven bake, but we'll see. So close up my, I guess I went a little too deep with my wheat stock score because it opened up and gave me a little bit of a belly there and didn't give me as much of a belly here and no ear. So whatever, it's fine. It's still pretty. Okay, this beautiful loaf has officially completely cooled and we are going to cut into it. Let's see, kind of want to do it this way, just so that that is in the middle. A long ways. Okay, so we've got a 61% hydration loaf here. It's very soft on the inside, and you know, this had a little bit of extra oil in it, which is not normal for my normal sourdough loaf. So it's not like extra wet or anything like that. It's pretty dry. I mean, you know, for sourdough is a little bit more moist in the middle anyway. So I mean, it looks pretty good. It doesn't have any big holes, and that's what one of the main things that I read about this recipe was that the crumb was tighter because it was such a low hydration. So it looks pretty good. I let it go a little too long with my steam, so my crust got kind of thick, but that's not that big of a deal. So we will eat her and see how she tastes. Which, I mean, that thick crust could be a problem if I can't bite through it. Flour. I don't like the flour coating, but I did it because I wanted it to be pretty. Let's get a little bit of butter. That's a lot of butter. Good. Crust is a little thicker than I like, but it's good. Good beginner recipe because that was super easy to work with. I think next time I do an open bake, which I haven't done a whole lot of open bakes, I usually use my Dutch oven. But next time I do an open bake, I'll do like 15 minutes with the steam and then the rest without, because it got good color on it. But like I said, that crust is a little thicker than I really like. But it's tasty.